I am less horrible than I could be. I've never set a house on fire, never thrown a firstborn off a bridge. Still, my whole life, I answered every cry for help with a pour. Hi YouTube, my name is Noah. This channel is Rose Garden. I'm new to this whole YouTube thing, but I thought I'd try it out. And I'm a little sick today, so we'll see how this goes. Today I want to talk about a contemporary poet I like a lot. He might be my favorite living poet. And he's actually been blowing up the last couple weeks because he just released a new collection that's getting a lot of acclaim. And his name is Kaveh Akbar. Kaveh Akbar is an Iranian American, and he's a poet. He did his MFA at Butler University, where he edited the whatever the journal. They have a literary journal there that's it's kind of somewhat well known, and for some reason I can't. Is it Bloodroot? Might be Bloodroot. I can't remember exactly though. But I'm not talking about his journal, and I'm not talking about the new book he released, because I haven't read it. Instead, I'm talking today about his first collection, which came out in 2017. And it's called Calling a Wolf a Wolf. Many writers have written about alcoholism. Among some of the best are, like David Foster Wallace, Hemingway, Malcolm Lowry. I had to look back at my shelf right here. Under the Volcano. Faulkner said that the only occupational hazard of being a writer is alcoholism. Jack Kerouac to some extent. I feel like, sort of. I'm gonna cut that out. I don't think that's true. I don't think Jack Kerouac wrote about alcoholism. He was an alcoholic though. Kaveh Akbar, in Calling a Wolf, I think he really, really like saves it from being a cliche and saves it from just falling into like sad drunk writer. An absolute master of complex emotion and this sort of like very cynical surrealism mixed with this like religiosity, this sort of prayer-like quality to it. It's something that contains a lot of opposites in a really powerful way. It's an interesting thing to think about, and why do those often go together? But I think we would all be perfectly ready to admit by now that there's a lot of mystique that sort of goes into that, and it isn't necessary and it isn't healthy. He essentially construes addiction as this spiritual hunger. Now, he isn't the first to do this. In fact, that's kind of what AA does, I think. If you ever read Infinite Jest, Infinite Jest is kind of like a similar idea, what's that? The halfway house. The halfway house in Infinite Jest. That they're all their addictions are really this like deep yearning for something that they can't seem to get except in this like cheap, destructive form in their addictions. Calling a wolf, impatient. Like the sky, I've been too quiet. Everyone's forgotten I'm here. I've tried all the usual tricks, pretending I've been just made terrifying like a suddenly carnivorous horse. Like a rabid, hissing sapphire. The medical response has been clear. Sit patiently until invited to leave. Outside, the lake is evaporating, dry blue like a galley proof. A month ago, they dragged up a drowned tourist, his bloat-white belly filled with radishes and lamb shank. His entire digestive system was a tiny museum of pleasure. Compared to him, I am healthy and unremarkable. Here I am reading a pharmaceutical brochure. Here I am dying at an average pace. Envy is the only deadly sin that's no fun for the sinner. This makes sadness seem more like a tradition. Loyalty to a parent's past, I try to find small comforts. Purple clover growing in the long grass, a yellow spider on the windowsill. I'm less horrible than I could be. I've never set a house on fire, never thrown a firstborn off a bridge. Still, my whole life, I answered every cry for help with the poor, with a turning away. I've given this coldness many names, thinking if it had a name, it would have a solution, thinking if I called a wolf, I might dull its fangs. I carried the coldness like a diamond for years, holding it close, near as blood, until one day I woke and it was fully inside me. Both of us ruined and unrecognizable. 2 coins on a train track, a train crush. Just his little metaphors are glorious. I mean, pretending I've just been made terrifying like a suddenly carnivorous horse. It's as startling as somebody becoming a carnivorous horse. Like that line is introduced. Like a rabid hissing sapphire. Somehow that there's something true about that. The hiss of a sapphire, the way it sounds when you say the word sapphire, there's a certain hiss to it.
A month ago, they dragged up a drowned tourist, his bloat-white belly filled with radishes and lamb shank. His entire digestive system was a tiny museum of pleasure.
I am less horrible than I could be. I've never set a house on fire, never thrown a firstborn off a bridge. Still, my whole life, I answered every cry for help with a pour. Now, this can go a lot of ways. You know, you could think of a friend asking him for help, and, you know, pours, and, drink up, buddy, as people often do. But I think probably more likely is that he's talking about every cry for help from his soul to God. He answered with a pour. Talks about thinking that if he could call a wolf, that he could dull its fangs. If he said the right word, called his condition by the right name, that it would sort of resolve itself. You know, just put a cherry on the cake. Like, what does a poet do, really, other than name things? Even if it takes a whole sonnet to describe one very specific emotion. Genesis, right? That's what Adam and Eve were there doing. They were naming the world, naming all the plants and animals. So naming's important. It's one of our magical powers we have as human beings. Really, I mean, we give something a name, and then it's kind of defined by that name. It's a very powerful thing, but it's not powerful enough to overcome alcoholism. This is extremely relatable. Like, if I can just find the right symptoms, whether it's depression or anxiety or anything, if I can find the right word, but it never works, does it? As a culture, we want simple solutions. We want quick fixes. We want to be able to say, this is my problem, and here here is the solution. I am depressed. Here are 5 different possible solutions to that problem. But I think in part what calling a wolf is about is that we can't do that. That we can't just simply name the thing and then, it ceases to be a problem for us. Because the problem we face and the solution to it are both beyond words. They're the journey of a lifetime. It's a spiritual journey to deal with this great hunger. Addiction is like religious desire. It's this yearning for God. It's almost like quitting drinking is this act of great faith. Real strength is vulnerability. Doesn't mean that you're totally courageous or without fear, or that you're armored. It's, you're naked, you're vulnerable, you're here, but you're not hiding. You're not hiding. So, that is the end of my rant. Thank you so much for watching, and if you are interested in seeing more content like this, please subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.